Good evening. A goalkeeper training without a contract. A reservoir at record low with the power still running. Patients cleared to leave but still in their beds. The gap between what something is and what it's called keeps widening. We're watching systems run on momentum while the paperwork catches up, if it catches up. A goalkeeper is training with a club he hasn't actually signed for yet. Ibrahim Danlad has been taking part in pre-season sessions with Ananse Kotoko, but the 23-year-old still hasn't put pen to paper. Negotiations are now in their final stages over a potential return to the Porcupine Warriors. He's already back with the squad. The contract isn't done. Ghana Soccernet reported this. Tensions between the United States and Iran have been rising in recent weeks. Turkey's president has now stepped in to try to calm things down. Tayyip Erdogan spoke by phone with Donald Trump. He urged the American president to keep talking with Tehran rather than let the situation get worse. Erdogan also offered Turkey's support in the process. The call suggests Ankara wants to play a role in preventing further escalation between Washington and Iran. Middle East Eye reported this. America's second-largest reservoir has fallen to its lowest level on record. Lake Powell now sits at a historic low. The reservoir is one of two that supply water across the western United States. The other is Lake Mead, the nation's largest. Together, they provide water to somewhere between 35 and 40 million people. The drop in water levels now threatens the electricity supply for millions of those residents. Power generation depends on water flowing through the dams at both sites. Independent reported this. Convicted fraudster has close ties to the leader of a British political party. George Cottrell, known as Posh George, is part of Nigel Farage's inner circle. Farage leads Reform UK. Questions are being raised about the gifts and support Cottrell has provided to Farage. That scrutiny will continue. Farage won a special election last week in Clacton. The victory hasn't ended concerns about his association with Cottrell. NYT World reported this. An animal care center in California has been flooded with angry messages following the death of a well-known bald eagle. The bird was called Jackie. She had been taken to Friends of Big Bear Valley for treatment. Staff at the center say they've been overwhelmed by the response. They've received an intense volume of calls and emails. Online inquiries poured in as well. The organization has now restricted comments on at least one of its social media posts. The outpouring of rage appears to have forced them to limit public interaction while they deal with the fallout. Independent reported this. Staff at an animal sanctuary in California have turned off comments after thousands called and wrote in fury over the death of Jackie, a bald eagle in their care. That is one kind of public anger. Here is another. José Sarney, a former president of Brazil, says Argentina's leader Javier Milei has been hostile to his country and shown no respect for diplomatic conduct. Argentina's president has been accused of hostility toward Brazil. Javier Milei has made disparaging remarks about the country and its leader Lula. Former Brazilian President José Sarney has now criticized those comments. He described them as inappropriate and a breach of diplomatic dignity. Sarney has called on both nations to make their relationship a priority. The two countries are South America's largest economies and share a long border. Buenos Aires Times reported this. A man was facing deportation from Britain to Jamaica. He has lived in the UK for more than half his life. Mark Nelson has now been released from immigration detention on bail. His lawyers challenged the government's decision to remove him from the country. He will be allowed to rejoin his British family. The case centers on a Jamaican national who built his life here over many years. Nelson had been held in immigration detention while authorities prepared to deport him. His legal team successfully argued against that removal. He is now free on bail. The decision means he can return to his family while the case continues. Guardian Immigration reported this. One of the Premier League's finest midfielders is preparing to leave Manchester City. Rodri, who captained Spain to World Cup glory, will soon depart the club. Under Pep Guardiola, the midfielder transformed both his own game and the team around him. Richard Jolly has written a tribute to the player's time at the club. Rodri helped define an entire era at City. His influence stretched across multiple trophy-winning seasons. The Spanish international became central to how Guardiola's side controlled matches and dominated English football. His departure marks the end of a significant chapter for the Premier League champions. Independent Football reported this. A woman believed the Holocaust had wiped out her entire family. She thought she was the last one left. Then she took a DNA test. Adriana Turk is 74 years old. The test found 50 living relatives she never knew existed. She is now meeting cousins scattered around the world. Some of them are in Israel. For decades, she carried the weight of being alone in the world. That has changed. Times of Israel reported this. Patients are staying in Jamaica's public hospitals long after doctors have cleared them to leave. It's become a persistent problem for the health system. Now the Health and Wellness Minister says the country will need to change its laws and policies to fix it. Dr. Christopher Tufton has called for legal reforms to tackle what are known as social cases. These are people who are medically fit to go home but remain in hospital beds. The minister hasn't detailed which laws need changing or what the new policies would look like. Jamaica Gleaner reported this.